You are being sold a dream that collapses the moment AI updates. And here's what nobody's telling you. The people profiting right now aren't the ones riding the hype. They are the ones who saw this trap coming 6 months ago. So let me show you what I know that you don't. I want you to think about something for a second. How many AI automation agents courses have you seen in the last 3 months? How many people are suddenly experts in something that didn't exist as a mainstream offer 2 years ago? Here's what's actually happening, and this is the part most people miss. We are living through the fastest technology disruption cycle in human history. Faster than the internet, faster than cell phones, and the business models people are building on top of it, they're designed with the shelf life of a TikTok trend. I've seen someone's entire agency offer became obsolete. Not because they did something wrong, but because OpenAI released the feature update on a Tuesday morning that automated the exact thing they were charging $5,000 a month to deliver. Gone. Overnight. And the tragic part? They never saw it coming because they were taught to sell the tool, not understand the train. This isn't a rant about AI. This is about survival architecture in a world where the ground moves faster than it can build. So let's break down what's really happening, and more importantly, what separates the people who will still be standing 2 years from now from those who won't. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Most people are confusing accessibility with opportunity. AI tools are easier to use than ever. You can spin up a workflow in Zapier, connect it to ChatGPT, throw in some make.com magic, and suddenly you are automating email sequences or lead enrichment or whatever the flavor of the week is. And that feels like power. But here's a psychological trap. When everyone has access to the same tools, the tool itself stops being the value. It becomes table stakes. Think about this. In 2008, knowing how to build a WordPress site was a $3,000 skill. By 2015, it was a $300 fever gig. By 2020, it was a button click. That's not because web design lost value. It's because the barrier to execution collapsed. AI is doing that same thing right now, but at 10 times the speed. The workflow you're selling today, someone's going to release a no-code version of it next month. The integration you're charging for, it will native in the platform by Q3. And if your entire business model is built on doing the thing, you're building on sand. Here's what I mean. I watched an agency last year build their entire offer around AI-powered customer support chatbots. They were good, really good. Custom trained models, tight integrations, solid onboarding process. Then Intercom released Fin. Then Zendesk released their AI agent, then HubSpot, then Salesforce, then everybody. Suddenly, their competitive advantage wasn't just thinner, it was redundant. Their clients didn't need a third-party vendor anymore. The tools they were already paying for could do it natively. Now, here's the interesting part. The agencies that survived this shift, they weren't selling chatbots. They were selling conversation design strategy. They were selling customer journey mapping. They were selling the thinking layer that sits above the execution. And that's the difference. One is a feature, the other is a framework. One gets automated, the other gets amplified by automation. So the question you need to ask yourself is this. Are you selling the hammer or are you selling the blueprint? Because the hammer's getting cheaper every single day. Now, let me challenge you on something. If you're positioning yourself as an AI automation expert, I want you to answer this honestly. Why does a business actually pay for AI? Most people say to save time, to cut costs, to scale without hiring, and sure, those are outcomes, but they are not the reason. Here's the real reason. Businesses pay for AI when it creates leverage in a system they already understand but can't optimize manually. Let me say that again, because this is the entire game. They don't need you to explain what AI is. They need you to see their system, the one they are inside of every day, and identify where intelligence applied correctly creates asymmetric returns. That's it. That's a skill. And it has almost nothing to do with the tools. Here's an example. A few months ago, a mid-sized e-commerce brand made headlines inside the industry circles because of massive inefficiency. They were spending nearly $40K a month on customer service, high ticket product, endless pre-sale questions, endless post-sale support cases, and they had already experimented with a chatbot. But it completely collapsed under real-world pressure. Customers hated the responses, accuracy dropped, conversations fell. So the company walked away with a predictable conclusion. AI isn't compatible with our business. But the real issue wasn't that AI didn't work. It was the way they used it. Here's what the brand eventually shifted to. They stopped trying to use AI as a replacement for human support. Instead, they used it as a filtering layer in front of their support team. The system handled all the simple, repetitive FAQ level questions. It flagged complex requests, identified sentiment and urgency, and routed the meaningful, revenue sensitive conversations directly to the agents best equipped to handle them. In other words, AI wasn't acting as a closer, it was acting as a filter. Once they switched to this model, support costs dropped by around 30%. But the real upside came from something else. High touch conversations increased by 18% because their most skilled agents were no longer buried under low value messages. They were focused exactly where their expertise created leverage. That's operational intelligence. That's the real power of AI in customer support. Most people are trying to sell automation, but businesses don't buy automation. They buy outcomes that were previously uneconomical to achieve. And if you can walk into a room and say, here's the system you're operating in, here's where you're bleeding margin, here's where AI creates leverage, here's where humans still outperform, and here's how we orchestrate both, you're no longer selling a service. You're selling a strategic architecture. And that doesn't get commoditized. Okay, so if tools become obsolete and workflows get automated and everyone has access to the same AI models, what's the skill that actually compounds? It's this: systems thinking plus AI native intuition. Let me unpack that. Systems thinking means you can walk into any business, any operation, any workflow, and within 20 minutes map the dependencies, bottlenecks, feedback loops, and leverage points. You see the structure of how work flows, where decisions get made, where information gets lost, and where manual effort creates drag. That's not an AI skill. That's a cognitive skill. It's pattern recognition. It's the ability to ask the right diagnostic questions. But here's where it gets powerful. When you pair that with AI native intuition, the ability to look at a problem and immediately know what AI is good at, what it's bad at, and how to orchestrate human plus machine collaboration, you become irreplaceable. Because you're not offering a tool, you're offering clarity. And clarity, in a world moving this fast, is the most expensive thing you can sell. Think about it like this. Everyone's focused on learning Zapier, Make, N8N, LangChain, vector databases, fine-tuning, prompt engineering, and sure, those are useful, but they are execution layers. The real value is in knowing when to use them, and more importantly, when not to. I've seen businesses waste $50K on a custom AI solution that could have been solved with a $20 a month tool and a smart workflow. And I've also seen businesses try to DIY an AI implementation that needed $100,000 in infrastructure and expertise to actually work. The difference? Systems literacy. And here's the thing. This skill doesn't expire when GPT-6 drops. It doesn't get outdated when a new automation platform launches. Because you're not tied to the tool. You're tied to the thinking. And the businesses that pay top dollar, they are not paying for code. They are paying for judgment. They are paying for someone who can say, we could automate this, but we shouldn't. Here's why. Here's what we should do instead. That's authority. That's expertise. That's the long game. Now let me give you a pattern to watch for. Every few weeks, a new AI tool drops, and the marketing around it is always the same. Game changer, revolutionary, this changes everything. And the social media echo chamber amplifies it. Suddenly, everyone's talking about it, building with it, selling services around it. and 6 weeks later, silence. I've watched this cycle play out dozens of times now. Tools that were supposed to kill ChatGPT, platforms that were going to disrupt the entire automation space, features that were the future of work, and here's what I've learned. The hype cycle and the value cycle are almost never aligned. The tools that actually matter, the ones that create durable value, they don't need hype. They just work. They solve a real problem quietly and well, and they compound. But most people are addicted to the hype because the hype feels like progress. It feels like you're staying ahead, like you're learning, like you're building an edge. But here's the brutal truth. If you're chasing every new tool, you're not building expertise. You're building surface area. And surface area is expensive. It's cognitively expensive. It's temporally expensive. And it doesn't compound. Real expertise is narrow and deep. It's knowing one domain so well that you can see second and third order effects that others miss. So here's my filter. Before you invest time in a new tool, ask yourself, does this expand my ability to think about systems, or does it just give me another widget? Because widgets are infinite. Thinking is finite, and the scarce resource wins. So let's bring this full circle. If you want to build something that survives AI's speed, if you want to be valuable not just today, but 2 years from now when the tools have all changed again, here's what you optimize for. Number 1, deep domain knowledge in one vertical. Don't be an AI generalist. Be the person who understands logistics plus AI, or healthcare plus AI, or legal plus AI. The riches are in the intersection. Number 2, systems thinking as your core competency. Learn to map workflows, understand dependencies, and see leverage points. This is the meta skill that makes everything else 10 times more valuable. Number 3, judgment over execution. Position yourself as a strategist, not the technician. The person who decides what to build, not just how to build it. Number 4, build relationships, not just deliverables. Businesses don't hire AI experts. They hire trusted advisors who happen to understand AI. That trust is built over time. It's built through clarity, honesty, and results. And it's the only moat that actually lasts. Because here's the thing. The AI landscape is going to keep shifting. Every month, every quarter, maybe every week. But the businesses that need help navigating that chaos, they're not going anywhere. And the people who can walk into a room and say, I don't know what tool will be best 6 months from now, but I know how to evaluate it, I know how to integrate it, and I know how to make sure it actually creates value, those people are going to print money. Not because they are the smartest, not because they are the most technical, but because they are the most clear. And look, I'm not saying don't learn the tools, automations, or agencies, or whatever model makes sense for you. I'm saying don't confuse the tool for the skill. The tool is temporary and the skill is permanent. And the skill is this: seeing systems, understanding leverage, and orchestrating intelligence, human and artificial, to create outcomes that weren't possible before. That's what businesses pay for. That's what survives updates, and that's what compounds. So, if you're building in this space, ask yourself, are you selling the thing or are you selling the thinking? Because one of those is a race to the bottom and the other is an asymmetric bet on the future. If this resonated, take 5 minutes after this and map out one system in your life or business. Just one. Ask yourself, where's the manual effort? Where's the bottleneck? Where could intelligence, human or AI, create leverage? Don't build anything yet. Just see it. Because once you start seeing systems, you stop chasing tools, and that's when you start building something real. Thanks for listening to CollabAI Lab, where humans insight and intelligent systems meet. Until next time, keep building smarter. Goodbye.